Okay, good morning or good afternoon to everyone who's listening out there, and thanks for joining us today for the Aspen Discovery webinar. My name is Jessie, and today we'll be taking you through a tour of Aspen Discovery. We have a few members of the Bywater Solutions and Aspen Discovery team here with us today, and we'll do a quick round of introductions. Our team will be watching the chat as it comes through, so if you have any questions throughout the presentation, you can use that chat box. We will also leave some time open at the end of our presentation if there are questions that we can answer about that as well. So we'll start with a quick round of introductions. I'm going to pass it on to Bill Kessler, who will give a quick introduction.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Bill Kessler. I'm the Aspen sales consultant. I'm glad everyone's joining us today. I'll pass it over to Cal.
Hi, I'm Cal Marquise. I'm the partner engagement specialist at Bywater Solutions. We're happy to have you guys here today.
Hello. Hi, my name is Morgan Daigneault. I'm an Aspen implementation specialist, and I'm really excited to be here for everyone to see how awesome Aspen is. So I'll give it to Kelly.
Thanks, Morgan. My name is Kelly McElgott, and I'm a library accounts coordinator for Bywater Solutions, and I'm happy you're here. Thanks.
Excellent. So we'll jump right in, and we'll first give a little background about what Bywater Solutions does for Aspen Discovery and a few resources that you have available to discover while you're checking out Aspen Discovery. So the first is a little bit about Aspen. Aspen was developed as a full-featured discovery system that allows your library to integrate all of those great resources that you have for your patrons. So think of that traditional catalog, but also all of the e-content providers that you subscribe to, third-party products, databases, genealogy, archives, and more. It's so important that our users have access to all of those resources, and Aspen Discovery brings all of that information into one place. So this is a resource that allows you to not only highlight what you have in your catalog, but also to bring that user experience for your patrons to just a great place where they can explore everything. This page, which you'll see in the chat box, will also alert you to any of our upcoming webinars. We have a great series coming up where we talk about engaging patrons, highlighting different collections, and really getting into more of the nitty-gritty with Aspen Discovery. So if you're interested, we have several of those coming up. You can also see a list of Aspen Discovery goals that we use, and then also a complete list of all products that can be integrated with Aspen Discovery. If you are interested, there is also a resource on aspen.bywatersolutions.com where you can just go through and look at all of the material if you're thinking about migrating, or if you'd like to check out some of the administrative features that are available here. There's also a section that will allow you to explore some of the specific modules within Aspen. And if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, you can even see some of the things that we have on the horizon, what's coming in our roadmap, any of the items from our release notes. As you know, Aspen releases every month, and this is a great way to kind of keep up and see what's new in the Aspen community. Finally, at the bottom, you will see anything that's new or coming up with Aspen. We have these fabulous monthly meetings called Aspen Gatherings, where you can get together with other librarians and staff members who are using Aspen Discovery, along with the Bywater team and the Aspen Discovery team, to talk about things that are upcoming. We also have several series where we talk about different ideas that are going on in Aspen, monthly webinars, and then of course one of our highlight products, Aspen Weekly. And this is a weekly digital magazine that comes out every Thursday, and you can browse all of the back copies if you're really interested in checking out some of the fabulous features that are available for Aspen. You can peruse all of these back issues, and this will give you a very detailed message about that information in the system. All right, with that, we will start with the exploration of Aspen Discovery. Again, if you have any questions, the team will be monitoring the chat box, so please feel free to ask any of those questions. Aspen Discovery is completely customizable. It's a great way for you to bring in branding from your library, your logo, your colors, and really highlight the beautiful features that you have with your library. If you're looking for some inspiration, you can also come to the Bywater Solutions website, and under our partners page, you can actually view all of our library partners that are live on Aspen Discovery. This is a great way to kind of see what those other libraries have done to customize their interface. So if you click on any one of these individual libraries, you can view just how customized they have their layout. So from single standing libraries to consortiums, you can view all of that information and kind of just look at any of those categories they have and just see some of those customizations that are highlighted in the system. Again, if you just click on any one of these, it's a great way to see that information. So now we'll talk about some of the layouts. Here on our main landing page, we are highlighting some of the browse categories. This is one of the greatest features of Aspen Discovery, which allows our users to browse through different collections. This gives staff the opportunity to curate collections that they want their users to explore, whether it's new e-content that you have available, or it's a upcoming event and you want to highlight some of those book lists. In this case, you can see we have one for Steam. It's just a nice way to really bring all of that information in and give your users that interface where they can explore. You know, we're so used to exploring things like Hulu or Netflix when we come to look for things that we want to either stream or watch. This gives your user that same experience. So they can look through those browse categories and find the information that they're looking for. This will give them a quick, brief view of that record where they can see that information. You'll notice there's multiple browse categories in our example here. You can set these browse categories up to highlight those different collections. Whether it's from a list or from a search that's performed in the catalog, your users can view that information. Aspen Discovery will Ferberize or group together all formats that are available. So in this case, you can see that we have an ebook. If I scroll down a little bit further and I begin to look at some of these different ones, I may say a book. In other cases, I may go through where I can see different titles that are available, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, young adult, cookbooks, whatever it may be. And again, this gives your users the opportunity to explore more of what's available, whether it's a ebook or book. And in this case, we can see that Ferberization. So this is showing us that we do have multiple formats and the user can pick the one that they choose. Now, if they do decide to see a little more information about this particular title, they can click right on the link, and this will take us into a detailed view of the record. The detailed view of the record will give us a little more information. Author, if it's part of a series, I can again see that Ferberization. I can drill down and see the particular edition that it is, and I can even see a little more info about that particular title, where it's available, call number. All of this information can be customized for your users for which location, edition, publisher, what information you want them to see. As we scroll down a little bit further, we can even see description, other titles that may be in this series, and then of course, maybe some suggestions that they may like. As we scroll down to the bottom, we're going to see additional options that staff can turn on or off and determine which order they appear. So if your library subscribes to Novelist Select, you'll be able to see similar series, similar titles, and similar authors. Aspen Discovery will identify the ones that are available in your collection and give your user the opportunity to just click on that and jump right into that title. So it's a nice way for them to explore more of that collection. If we jump down to the bottom, you can also see a few more things. Subject headings. This again gives your user the opportunity to jump in and explore other fiction, mystery, and detective titles within the collection. If you like having a staff view on, you can have that information visible as well. So looking at the grouping information, where the book cover is coming from, any type of information about those items. And while we're talking about cover images, we can mention that there are free resources available for both book cover images and movie cover images. You can use sources like COSI, which will pull in from Amazon or Google Jackets or Open Library. And even for movies, you can pull in for OMDB or Open Movie Database. You can use paid subscriptions like Content Cafe or Syndetics if you have a subscription to pull them in as well. Now let's go back to our main screen by clicking that little read or book cover in the corner. That's going to take us back to our browse categories. Now for your libraries, again, you can customize these. One great aspect to mention here is the integration of the New York Times API. So you can actually use the API to pull information in from the New York Times bestseller list, and it will highlight those titles that are available in your collection. So if this is a task that one of your staff members is doing, either on Monday morning, to send that list out, this is something that can be pulled in automatically, and you can have that list populate and be available as one of your browse categories in the system. Let's talk a little bit now about some searching options. Whether your user has a title in mind that they're looking for, or they're searching for their favorite author, or maybe they're getting ready to start a project at their house and they want to do just a basic keyword search. All they need to do is come into this search box here and begin that search process. You'll notice over here on the right-hand side, they do have a drop-down, and this allows them to choose how they want to search, whether it's by keyword or title, series, or even doing an advanced search, they can narrow that down. As I begin to type, you'll notice that I start to get some predictive text. This predictive text will give me options for titles or subjects that may match what's available in my collection. So if I forget what that author's name is, or I just don't remember how exactly to spell it, this will give us that spelling correction for us. If you spell something incorrectly, you'll also get a suggestion for that, where it will bring in that result. So again, just a nice way if you either typed in an extra R or you flipped the I and the E, this will give you that result in the system. Now, when we first look at the results page in our system, you'll notice you have your facets on the left-hand side. This will allow you to narrow your results. So your users can narrow down on a specific format, or if they're looking for a particular e-content provider, this allows them to narrow down those results in the system. Now, something to keep in mind as a staff member, if you are an administrator for your Aspen Discovery interface, you can customize these facets. There's over 30 facets that you can choose from. You can choose the order that they appear in and which type of page they appear on. If you're part of a consortium, each one of those libraries can have your own customized facets, so your users can easily narrow down their results when they're performing a search. Now, if your user is looking for more of a visual aspect, you'll notice right across the top, they can narrow down by their format. So if they are just looking for an audiobook because they are getting ready to go on a road trip, they can select that audiobook, and that will bring us a result where it's narrowed down and we can just see that information. If they want to remove that filter at any time, they can hit remove, and that will take them back to their results. Now, as we start scrolling through, you'll be able to see those results in the collection, and you'll notice that we get an Explore More section. That is always going to show under your third or second result. So under your second result, before your third result, you will see options to other resources that are available. So when we started talking about Aspen Discovery and the goals behind it, we really wanted to focus on making sure that our users have access to all of those resources. So you'll notice here we see some remote resources. Aspen Discovery can be indexed to bring in website results from your library website. This is one of our partners, Pueblo City County Library. So we have used this as an example to show those results within our system. So when I performed that gardening search, it's bringing back any results in the website that populate. So this is a great way that you can see that information available right within the system. So now I know that there are some resources available for gardening. You'll also notice that I have some results for an image. You can index or connect directly to a archival or historic resource. This is one of our partners, Uinta County Library, where we have connected to the archives for their digital library that's part of the University of Utah. So since we did that search for gardening, we can see this beautiful rose garden. If we scroll down a little bit more, we can see the metadata for that particular image. So just a nice way to bring all of these resources into one location. You'll also notice that we do have some results for magazines, academic journals, news, and primary sources. If you subscribe to EBSCO's EDS or Discovery service, you can also integrate that information directly into the system. Now, as I scroll down through my results, you can kind of limit to the number of results that your individual patron sees. So whether it's 15 or 20, whatever you choose, you can see that. As they get to the bottom of the page, you'll notice that you can highlight different things. If you're part of a statewide interlibrary loan program, you'll get a message that says, didn't find what you're looking through, request through ILL. So this is a nice way to connect to that. You can turn on a free resource from the Digital Public Library of America. So here's just some more options for your users to see that pertains to that particular search. Finally, you can even link out to a purchase suggestion form, whether you have integration with your ILS or you want to use the native purchase suggestion form within Aspen Discovery. This is a great way for your users to make a suggestion if they did not find what they're looking for. You'll notice at the bottom of the page, we can even see search tools. So the user can email that search to themselves, they can save it, or even export it to Excel. Now let's jump up to the top and let's do a search for a title in a series. So we'll use Harry Potter as our example today. As I start typing again, you're going to notice that predictive text that populates right beneath. And again, I see examples of titles, subject headings, and I can either select one of those if I'm looking for it or just perform that regular search in the system. What that will do is bring back a list of results. So here's a perfect example of looking at a Ferberized title in the system. So we can see for Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, we have multiple formats. We have a book that's available on the shelf. I can even hit show editions and I can see that there's 2 different editions that are available. If I scroll down a little bit further, I can see there's an audiobook. Again, I can see if there's any different editions that are available, and I can see if one's on shelf. I can see that this one's currently in processing. So Aspen will alert you to the status of any one of those titles. As we scroll down a little bit further, we'll now see any e-content integration. So I can see for this one, we have a cloud library title that's available. And then we also have a cloud library for ebook. So whether your library subscribes to Overdrive, Cloud Library, Access 360, or Hoopla, those e-content providers can bring real-time results into your catalog. So when your users perform a search, they can see those results in line with the other formats and also begin that checkout process. So it's a one-stop shop for them. They don't have to worry about going out to another platform to get those e-content titles, and they can easily view all of that information in one place. The user even has the opportunity to jump into the author information. So if I was interested in learning more about J.K. Rowling and what other titles are available in the collection, I can jump in. You can turn on a free resource from Wikipedia, which will give you just a brief intro to that individual's entry on Wikipedia, so you can see that information. You'll notice you'll even see similar authors over here on the left-hand side. And this is part of the Novelist Select integration, where your users can see similar authors and what they might like for those comparisons between the two. If you're interested in looking at the entire series, you'll notice that I can click right on that Harry Potter original series link. That's going to take me in where I can see all of those titles in the exact order. This right here is probably one of my favorite features about Aspen, because how many times do you go to explore a new series and sometimes it's not linked correctly, or maybe they're not in the right order, you know nothing about the series, but you've heard good things. This is a great way to kind of just peruse through, see what you've read, see what's coming up next. And so this gives your readers the opportunity to explore that complete series information. Let's talk about some of the social options that your users have with Aspen Discovery. You'll notice over here on the left-hand side, we have a series of stars. You can enable rating for your patrons. What this allows them to do is rate a title from 1 to 5 stars, 1 being the lowest and 5 being the highest. If they decide to use that 5-star rating and rate something, Aspen will start providing them recommendations based on that rating that they provided. And we'll jump into that in a little bit in my account so you can see some of those options. This is a really nice way for them to essentially start giving feedback about what they like. Now, as I scroll down, you can see you even have the option to add a review. If this is something that you want to turn on for your users, this would allow your users to write a review or make a comment about that title. They can save it to a list if they want to create a private list and add that information. And they even have social sharing. And this would allow them to essentially share it to their own Pinterest page or their own Facebook page, or even send an email. You'll notice that this prompts the user to log into the system. They can log into the system with either a username or a card number, and then a PIN or password. They do have the opportunity, if they forget their password, since of course we have so many passwords that we could easily forget which one we have set up. And then there's even an option to turn on self-registration. This would allow the user to register for a new library card if they are new to the library system. I'm going to pause for just a few seconds and ask if we have any questions that we can answer on the screen. I know I've seen a few going back and forth.
Yeah, Jesse, I think we have some interest in maybe displaying some of the like genealogy and archive capabilities. If maybe you could show a little bit if you went to site. And then someone did ask just about like loving the customization, and then just touching on a little bit of like what happens when we implement, how we get people set up and going on Aspen.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Cal. So we'll do a quick browse through for archives and genealogy, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the implementation process. So this is one of our partners, again, out at Uinta County Library. This is where they're in Utah, and they have utilized both the genealogy and the archive integration for their Aspen Discovery system. They're also a great partner if you want to take a look at their collection. They also use Aspen Discovery's web builder as an option to create website pages right within their system. So you'll notice here, if I hit the home button, that's going to take me to the library home, and they are using Aspen Discovery to build their entire website. So this just shows you some of the versatility that Aspen Discovery has and just some of the beautiful features that you can turn on to really highlight that. They also have integration with Library Market, so you can see they have some upcoming events that are showing in the system. So now we'll start by showing you some of those genealogy options. So you'll notice over here on the right-hand side, we have a drop-down menu. I can select genealogy records from that drop-down and specifically search for genealogy records. I can either enter in an individual that I'm looking for, or a keyword or a specific title, and this will bring back the results. So the genealogy functionality within Aspen Discovery allows you to actually create an individual in there and enter in any information that you may have, birth and death date, gender, other names, where they're buried, their burial location, any type of comments about this individual, an obituary. And this is a great way to have these resources available for your users. And I'm going to share a story that I think is just so fabulous about the Aspen Discovery community, and just how dedicated the Bywater and Aspen Discovery team is, to our partners. The director at Uinta County Library wanted to take advantage of some of the volunteers that he had at their library and how active they wanted to be. And he worked directly with Mark Noble, who is the developer for Aspen Discovery, to set up some permissions that would allow volunteers to just come in and enter those genealogy records within the system. And now every other library partner that's using Aspen Discovery can also utilize that same feature. So it just goes to show like how dedicated the community is, and like just some of the great perks about being part of the open source community. We listen to suggestions, and if we hear that they will be beneficial to your library, 9 times out of 10, they'll be beneficial to other libraries. So it's just a great way to, be a part of that and get that information out. Next, we'll do a quick search in archives. So you'll notice if I switch that drop-down menu to history and archive, I can now perform a search. I'm just going to do a search for river. You'll notice that I get results in the center of the screen, and my facets will update on the left-hand side dependent for that search that I did. So you can see here we have collection options that we can narrow our results by, contributors, subject, publisher, whatever it may be. And this allows me to jump right in and view that information. So you can see, again, it takes us right out to that collection for river rafting. And if I scroll down a little bit further, I can see that metadata. So this is just a great way to integrate that information right within your system. Now, as I scroll down, you'll notice that Explore More gives me options that I can see what's in the catalog, any upcoming events, anything on that website or list, and then options for maybe a collection spotlight that I've created in the system. So if you are interested, this is a great resource to check out, uintalibrary.org. We can throw that in the chat box for you. This is a great one for you to check out. Almost all of the features that Aspen Discovery has, Uinta County Library has those available. Okay, I'll jump back over to the Aspen Discovery model, and we'll talk a little bit about the implementation process and just what your users will experience if you go through the process. So while you're working with Bill through that sales process, and once a contract is signed, the first thing we'll do is we'll schedule a kickoff call with you. We'll also send you some surveys to fill out so we can gather some information about the different integrations that you have and would like set up with Aspen Discovery. At the kickoff call, you'll get your introduction with the Bywater Solutions Aspen team, and we'll get a quick introduction of your team. And this is a great way for us to share information about expectations and timelines and what you will notice through the implementation process. We'll also set up that timeline to take you from the initial setup of your Aspen Discovery site and then going through the customizations, setting up e-content and other third-party providers, and customizing your Aspen Discovery interface. During the weekly meetings that the Aspen Discovery team has with your library team, you'll be setting up administrative settings in the administrative console, and on that week-to-week meeting, you will also be working directly with your Aspen Discovery team to answer any questions that you may have, or if there are workflows that you want to simplify, they'll be working with you to set those up. After the customizations and setups have concluded, we will go through a staff training so we can train your frontline staff and get them feeling comfortable with what has been customized and set up for Aspen Discovery. You'll have some time to do testing on the system so you can get comfortable with how things work. Think about those questions that your patrons ask or things that they're looking for in the system and performing those searches. You know, logging in as a patron so you can see what that account information looks like. And then we fast forward to go live. And that is when your production site will be live and you can begin that process of promoting your new Discovery interface. Now, some libraries opt to do a soft launch where they will still have their catalog, their legacy catalog active, and then they launch Aspen Discovery, and then, you know, promoting it to some of your power users so they can go in there and give some feedback, and then do a launch within your system. And your Aspen Discovery team can absolutely provide some feedback on that and how other libraries have done it. Are there other questions that I can answer from the chat before we jump into the account preferences?
I think we've been kind of like tackling them as as they come through in the chat. So yeah, I think we've pretty much answered the couple things that were open-ended. So
okay. All right, so next we're going to log in and take a look at what the patron will see. So when I hit that sign in button, this will prompt the user to log in, and dependent on your preferences, with either a username or a card number, and then of course entering in that password or PIN. Once they log into the system, they'll be taken into their account information. This is where they'll see an account summary, so they can see titles that they've checked out, anything that they have on hold, and then of course on the left-hand side they can see anything that's outstanding. So right now I can see that I have $10 in fines, and then I can actually drill down and look at the specific titles that I have checked out, one of which is overdue. As I scroll through, I can see that physical material that I have checked out. If I have a renewal available, I'll be able to see that. And then I also get this "you might like" feature. This is a great way for your users to explore other titles in the collection, and then of course jump in and view a little more of that information. Now, if you do have one of your e-content providers turned on, whether it's Overdrive or Hoopla, Cloud Library, or Access 360, your users will be able to see actually what they have checked out from those platforms as well. So I can see that I have 3 titles currently checked out with Overdrive, with the option to read it online, or of course return now if I am finished. If one of these Overdrive titles were a different format, meaning it was either Adobe or a Kindle, I would also have an option to download that particular format to my desired device. The next thing your user will see will be the holds. This is where they can see both physical material, so anything that may be ready for pickup in the system, and then of course anything that's pending. So this would be a title that may be checked out to another patron, or it just hasn't been triggered or trapped yet at the library. Your users will have the opportunity to cancel the hold if they no longer need it, and then they can even suspend it or freeze it. And so what that does is that allows the user to say, I'm going on vacation and I don't want to miss my place in line because I can see I'm the first position for that next hold. And they can actually, freeze it and say, I'm going on vacation and I want that to be thawed, let's say on June 4th. What that'll do is that will take them out of the queue and then put them back in line on June 4th. It's just a nice way, if something comes up and they don't want to miss their turn, that they can do that. You'll notice there's also a while you wait feature. This is another great way for users to explore other titles that are available in the collection. So you'll notice it usually gives you a e-content option and a physical option. So if there's something that they want to read right away, they can check that title out. If you have a multi-branch system and you allow your users to select their pickup location, they can even change their pickup location if the title has not been triggered or trapped yet. Next, let's talk a little bit about reading history. Depending on what your privacy policy is at your library, you have the option to turn on reading history. Reading history allows your user to opt in to keeping or viewing their reading history. So right now I have mine turned on, and this shows me anything that I've read in the past, and I can see that information. I can filter it or sort it by a specific title, author, date, or format. And if I have a long list and I'm looking for a specific author, I can even search and filter by that particular search. This is a nice way for them to go back. Now, let's say I do not want to record my reading history. This is the message that your user will get prior to opting in. So this just lets them know that the privacy policy is taken seriously at the library, and this gives the option to say, yes, please start recording my reading history. The next thing they'll see is the opportunity to manage their fines and accounts. So whether you have accruing fines or if you're fine free and you just charge for lost items, this is where the user will see that information. So you'll notice right now I have 2 overdues, and I do have integration with PayPal turned on. So you can see the options to pay via PayPal, pay later, or use a debit or credit card to make a payment. This will take the user out to PayPal where they can make the payment, and then it will send the payment information back to your ILS so the patron account is updated with a timestamp of that payment. Now I'm going to scroll down a little bit, and down below you can see that I have another individual listed. Aspen Discovery allows you to turn on something called linked accounts. Linked accounts is specifically for Aspen Discovery and agnostic from your ILS. So what that means is you can give your patrons the opportunity to connect to either their children, a partner, if they're caring for a parent or they're a guardian ad litem. They can actually link their accounts where they can see checkouts, holds, and even pay fines and fees for members of those linked accounts. When we get down to our account settings, I'll show you all the settings that you can set up for those linked accounts and how that information takes place. If you use a purchase suggestion form, your user will see a materials request button. This allows them to submit a material request in the system where they can fill out a little form with, title information, author. You can determine which fields are mandatory and then submit that suggestion. If this is integrated to your ILS, it will send that over to your ILS. If you're using the native form within Aspen Discovery, you can go in administration and view the recommendations that have come in. Now, earlier when we were on the Harry Potter title, we talked about giving those 1 to 5 star ratings. This is where they're going to see titles that they have rated in the system. So they can see anything that they have rated in the past. And once they start rating things, they can even see recommendations. So again, I like to talk about just the beautiful things that the Aspen Discovery community does and how vital the developers are and dedicated to the community that they're a part of. for years, Mark has been developing 4 discovery interfaces, and over those years, there have been multiple user surveys and feedback about how people, want to ingest information, how they search, and how they want to see those recommendations come up. So these recommendations are based on those user surveys and usability studies, so your users have the best experience. So these recommendations you'll see are coming back, and the user even can say, don't recommend, and then that won't show up in their list. So this is just a nice way for them, again, to explore more of the collection that they may not have known about before. Now let's jump into our account settings. In our account settings, you can see your digital library card. Now you'll notice I can even see the linked cards below. And so what this does is this will show my digital library card, and then I can see anybody that is linked to me. So now let's jump into those linked accounts. When your user first logs into their account, they will see this option for linked accounts if your library has chosen to turn it on. If your patron would like to add either a child or a spouse or a partner or a parent, guardian ad litem, whatever, they can click that add an account. They do have to know the username or the card number and the password or PIN of that individual. I'm going to repeat that one more time. If a patron wants to add somebody as a linked account, they have to know both the username and card number or password and PIN. That is how the account is added. So once the account is added, it will show up in their system. Now it will also identify any other accounts that can view my account. So I can see that Sam Wise also has my account connected to theirs. So this will show you right away. Now, if I wanted to remove them, so let's say Sam Wise was my child and Sam Wise turned 16 and I wanted to remove them from my account, I could select that. If Sam Wise changed their password, that would automatically remove them from their account. So there are some safeguards in there if, partners go separate ways, or there's just no longer a reason to have those linked accounts, you can remove them. One thing that linked accounts will not see if accounts are linked is reading history. Reading history will just be for the individual user if you do have that turned on. Now, some of the other preferences that the user can see is defining a language. There's 7 languages that you can choose from to turn on for Aspen Discovery, and your user can select that. They have some options for prompting messages, and if you are a multi-branch system, you can even set preferred location pickup. So if you work closer to one branch, let's say, or campus, this would allow you to pick a title up on your way home from that location. As far as contact information goes and updating that, if you allow your users to, let's say, update a mobile phone number or an address, this would give them the opportunity to fill that information in and then update that contact information, and that will send that back to the ILS. As far as messaging preferences go, this would allow your user to select the preferred contact method. So whether it's SMS or email, or if you have phone contacts, this would allow them to enter that information in. This example is connected to a Koha ILS. So you're viewing the messaging settings for Koha, but depending on what your ILS is, it will bring in those messaging settings. There is options to reset a PIN or password in the system if you allow that, so that your user can come in and enter their old one and create a new one. Now, if you are a staff member and you are logged into the system and you have permissions as an Aspen administrator, there's a couple great features that you can use to help your patrons. So whether you're performing that reference interview at the circulation desk or research desk, or you get a phone call with somebody asking about they're having trouble placing a hold, there's a great feature called Masquerade. And what this allows you to do is enter in a library card number where you can act as that individual. And that would allow you to view that patron's account and help them troubleshoot or walk through the process that they're performing. One of the last things I want to talk about here for the patron account is my lists. Now, lists work in two ways. As a patron, I can create a list in here, and that will provide all of the titles that I may have added to that list. So you can see here one that we have for Caldecott medal winners. As I scroll through, we can see all of those different titles that are in there. I can add multiple titles at once by either entering the title name or the ISBNs. I can perform a search, and from those search results, I can add it to a list. I can email that list to myself or another individual. I can print it off. I can even generate citations in multiple formats. So this gives you the opportunity, if you have a close relationship with a school or college or university, to bring that generation of citations in. You can even choose how your list is defined. So if I want to say user defined, I can just drag and drop those in the place that I would like them. So it's just a great opportunity to move those around. Now, lists work two ways. If I am a staff member and I created a list here, this would allow me to essentially add it to the browse categories, which we saw on that main landing page. I can even create a collection spotlight. And a collection spotlight is a great way for you to embed like a carousel on your library website, or if you partner with somebody in your community like the YMCA or the Girl Scouts, they can actually add that collection spotlight to their website as well. Aspen will create an iframe for you. Now I'm going to do one or two more searches in the system just to highlight a few things, and that is placards. Placards are a great way for you to highlight things in your collection that you may have access to and you traditionally do not have a MARC record for it. So think about things like databases or events or electronic resources. In this case, you can see I performed a search for language and we have a placard for Mango languages. This pops up a placard where you can see the link to Mango languages, a little blurb about it, and it provides our user a link that takes them directly out to that platform. So this is a great way to highlight things in your collection. Placards are driven by triggers or keywords that staff create. Now, if you're in a multi-branch system, you can even create placards that are just in reference to your library, so they don't show up on every library in the consortium. So this is a great way to highlight all different sorts of things. Placards can have a start and an end date. So if you want to talk about an event that's going on at the library, perhaps you have a sewing event that's going on, and when they perform that sewing search, it pops up. You can give it an end date. I've even seen this used for things like, curbside pickup or summer reading. It's just a great way to get this information in front of your users so they can see that right away. Okay, I'm going to wrap up by just showing you some of the administration in the system, and then we'll leave some time open for any questions that may have come up at the end. If you are an administrator for Aspen Discovery, this is the interface that you will see. Now, when you are implementing the system, you will set up administrative users. You can give those users permissions that define the type of role they have in the system. So if, let's say, I create browse categories or lists, maybe I would just have access to those things. Or maybe I do a weekly blog for our young adult group. Maybe I have access to just Web Builder, so I can come in here and create a new blog post. There's all different ways that you can define what your users have access to in the system. So if we look at those permissions, you can just see an example of some of the things that you can turn on to allow your users to have access to. Again, we talked about those volunteers for genealogy. This is where you would see some of that information and what those options are. Also within administration, you're going to see some of your reports. Throughout all of the different modules, you're going to see dashboards. These usage dashboards will show you usage for your site. So in this case, you can see overall or general usage, page views, cover requests, grouped work searches. And this will give you just a basic breakdown of that information. And you can even take it a step further to look at a graph, and that will show you the information going back to the date that you have started. So I can see that information, just how it has climbed over the last few months. Now in administration, when we're working with you through that implementation process, this is where we will set up your themes and layouts, customizing information for your library. And again, if you're a multi-branch system, for those individual libraries. And within each one of those themes, you can customize the look, the feel, whether you know the hex color or the RGB. This is where you would enter in that information. The accessibility built into Aspen Discovery will show you if it's green, it's accessible. If it's yellow, it's not very accessible. And if it's red, it is horrible. So you will know right away if it is accessible in the system. And there's several different options, whether it's buttons or menus or drop downs or modal boxes. All of that can be customized within the system. And then again, depending on if you're a single branch or a consortium, you can define what that customization is applied to. Now, as well in your administration, this is where you're going to define your locations for your library, any languages that you would like to set up, defining those browse categories or the placards that we talked about. All of those can be customized in your system. For any catalogers that are on the call, this is where you're going to define your grouped work displays. So if I want to talk about what appears in those search results, and when they're looking at those detailed records, you can define that information. And then you can also define those facets. So after we did the search and we were looking at the left-hand side, and I said there's about 30 different facets that you can choose from, this is where you can actually come in and define those. So you'll see here, this gives us the option to come in. I can select from that list which facet we want to show, and then I can even take it a step further and decide where it shows. On the results page, on the advanced search page. Is it a multi-select facet? Do I want to give them options to select multiple topics in that facet and beyond? Also within your administration, you will see your third-party integration. So things like your New York Times API, setting up the cover images dependent on what you use, Wikipedia, Novelist, and then of course those e-content providers. All of that information can be set up. Now again, if you are part of a multi-branch system or consortium, each one of your libraries can have your own Overdrive, your own Hoopla, your own cloud library, and that will be defined for each one of your locations. So if I am a patron from a branch and I perform a search and my library doesn't have access to Hoopla, but another member in my consortium does, I will not see those results. So there's really nice ways to customize that information for consortiums. Now, if you have access to an e-content provider that doesn't have an API connection or that instantaneous connection, you can sideload and bring those records, the MARC records that you get from your vendor, directly into Aspen. Canopy would be a good option here. So Canopy would allow us to bring those records in so your users could see that streaming access. I'll wrap things up today with Aspen Discovery Help. This is where staff can have access to the help manual. This will give you a glance at some of the administration and patron interface, and this would allow you to view information about that and even view a quick video about setup or how that particular feature works. If you utilize Bywater Solutions for support with Aspen Discovery, you can even submit a ticket. And this will go directly to the Aspen Discovery team where they can answer a question from the system. And then finally, release notes. So currently Aspen Discovery releases every month, sometimes even a little quicker than every month. And this is where you will see all of the information from the current release as well as past releases in the system. Each one of those releases will have details and occasionally screenshots where you can view just exactly what you'll expect. And the Aspen Discovery team will even do a monthly communication about what to expect in that upcoming release. Okay, I'm going to pause and leave the last few minutes open for any questions that you may have.
Jesse, we did have one earlier that I just want to clarify in case anyone else had questions about this. But one of the questions in the chat was how much of the grouping relies on a library subscribing to Novelist? So I just wanted to clarify that a little bit.
Yeah, the grouping of the records doesn't rely on Novelist at all. The initial grouping of the records is done when we pull the information from your ILS. To keep it very straightforward, it's going to look at both the title and the author when it's grouping that information together. You can do manual grouping. So if there's something that was missed, you can manually group records together. And if there's something that you don't want grouped, you can go into administration and ungroup them as well. So Novelist is not needed to do any of the Ferberization or grouping of those records.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that.
Yeah.
I'm just going to do a call for any other questions. Okay. When grouping series, do you need Novelist?
I'm going to ask Mark to jump in. We can group without Novelist, but I want to verify.
Yeah, we can show series information without Novelist. Novelist does give us some advantages. It makes it a lot easier to tell if something, like what the preferred reading order is. So it depends a lot on the metadata and how good the metadata is. It's one of those things that typically isn't cataloged all that well, but we definitely show series information for you without Novelist. So.
Okay, another one just came in about if they already are with us with the Koha ILS and they add the Aspen Discovery layer. Can you just talk about how support might change for them, or if it does at all, putting in tickets and accessing help?
Oh yeah, of course. So we use RT, or the request tracker, as you're familiar with now that you use with Koha, for Aspen Discovery as well. It was just developed that you would have access in administration. And what this will do is when you fill out that form, it creates a ticket right in RT, and you'll get the same response time as you do with Koha. It'll come into our queue, and then our support team at Bywater Solutions will view that ticket and then send it to the proper individual to answer that for you. So same support as you get with Koha. It'll just be filtered to the Aspen team rather than the Koha team. And you can still call us. We have a Slack channel that you can jump in, and same communication, just a new product.
And okay, is there a way for patrons to reserve rooms or computers or other tech resources within Aspen?
So I think right now we just have integration with Library Market. There might be some on the horizon. Do we have, Mark, I'll let you talk about this for any developments that we have in.
Yeah, right now we support Library Market, Library Calendar from Library Market. We're looking at a few other ones, as well as building something native to Aspen. So LibCal is probably the next integration that we'll have for calendars. Sorry. Anything else on the calendar? Sorry.
So it looks like somebody asked a Q&A about the difference between EDS and Aspen. Do we need either of them or both of them? So if you have a subscription to EDS right now, Aspen does have integration with EDS. So if I perform a search, let's say for pandemic, and I say I want to do a search in articles and databases, this will bring back EDS results. It will integrate those results, even including like the research starter. So like you can see those from EDS. You'll have your facets that are a little bit different, so I can look for full text. If you decide down the road that you want to make the move to Aspen Discovery and you don't want to use EDS anymore, EBSCO host integration is on our roadmap, and that is expected for development in late fall. But right now, the EBSCO integration that we have is with EDS. So if you have an EDS subscription, that can integrate directly with Aspen Discovery.
And yes, we will be sure to send the recording of this presentation out afterwards. So.
Okay, thanks for joining us today, everyone. And if you have any questions or concerns, we'll always be able to answer any questions moving forward. We have a great series of webinars coming up over the next 6 months that will go a little bit deeper in, and please contact Bill at bywatersolutions.com if you'd like to set up a customized demo for your library. Thanks everyone for joining us, and thanks to everybody from the Aspen Discovery team who diligently watched all of those questions and answered them. Thank you. Have a good day.